US politicians, Republican and Democrat, are fighting to keep Chinese automakers out of America. But some of these companies are already here. There are more than 100 Chinese automotive firms with some kind of operation in the US, according to Dun Insights, a consultancy which focuses on autonomous and EV markets. BYD makes buses in California. Chinese battery maker CATL has a deal with Ford to make EV batteries in Michigan. But by far, the company probably best positioned to sell full cars in the US right now is Geely, auto industry analysts told me. That's because, in a way, it already does.
Geely is the only one that actually has a physical footprint already in the US through those other brands. So they've got the factory, they've got distribution network, they've got a supply chain.
The name Geely can refer to a holding company, a publicly traded OEM, and a brand, depending on the context. Geely Holding is a large shareholder in 3 automakers that all operate in the US: Volvo, Polestar, and sports car maker Lotus. Geely Holding owns 78.8% of Volvo's stock. Volvo and Geely founder Li Shufu, who also goes by the name Eric Li, together control a large stake in Polestar. Geely Holding controls 51% of Lotus. It also has a smaller stake in Mercedes-Benz and in luxury maker Aston Martin. While Geely Holding is Volvo's majority shareholder, a Volvo spokesperson said in an email that Geely does not manage or oversee any daily operations of Volvo cars or any listed companies it holds shares in. Premium EV brand Polestar, which was spun out of Volvo, is also listed on NASDAQ. Lotus is split between 2 entities, one public and one private, but the public company plans to acquire the privately owned piece, and Geely Holding is the majority owner of both. These companies also have deep ties in other ways. Geely manufactures Lotus EVs in China, Geely Holding's CFO is on Polestar's board, and Geely founder Li Shufu is Volvo's chair. Both Volvo and Polestar collaborate extensively with Geely, and Volvo CEO Håkan Samuelsson said the relationship puts Volvo in a better position to compete with Chinese automakers than its peers. In its annual report, Volvo said it wants to expand the relationship. All 3 of these brands have dealership networks in the US. Volvo also owns a plant in South Carolina. A spokesman for Volvo told me he wanted to stress that Volvo Cars is the owner of the plant, not Geely. But Volvo CEO Samuelsson reportedly said on April 29th that the company would be open to making Chinese cars at the plant, and it does have capacity. That factory is vastly underutilized, said Sam Abu Al-Samid, who is a researcher at Telemetry Insights. It's producing a fraction of its annual capacity of about 150,000 units. Volvo does plan to grow those volumes. It's introducing production of the hybrid XC60 SUV to the plant, which Abu Al-Samid estimates will add another roughly 45,000 units. Volvo's America's president, Luis Resende, told me late last year that the company at the time was importing about 95% of the vehicles it sold in the US. It wants to boost US sales to 200,000 units a year and wants its Charleston factory to produce about 50 to 60% of that. A likely candidate for a US introduction might be Geely Auto's Chinese brand Zeekr, kind of a performance-oriented premium brand, analyst Tu Lei says might slot right in below Volvo.
Executives from Zeekr have said that they want to introduce the Zeekr brand into the US market. So that, of the other Geely brands, and they have a whole range of brands, but the other Geely Group brands, that is the most likely one to be introduced into the US market.
Zeekr already has a partnership with Waymo, which has been rolling out Waymo-equipped Zeekr vans in San Francisco. Waymo also uses Jaguar I-Pace EVs and has plans to use vehicles from Hyundai and Toyota as well. In China, Geely has become a rising star in the country's brutal domestic car market. Shares surged in early March after the company outpaced its Chinese rival in sales 2 months in a row. Worldwide, Geely Holdings brands sold close to 1 million vehicles in the first quarter of 2026. Among Chinese companies, Geely is unusually at ease operating in markets that are quite different from China.
They've entered many markets in Europe, so they're gaining a lot more experience about being an international presence. And so, but make no mistake, the jewel is the United States, where they all feel that it can be their most profitable market.
One of its challenges is that it might be stretched a bit thin across all of the different brands it is operating, Dun Insights CEO Michael Dunn told me. While Geely is definitely one of the best positioned to set up shop in the US, it's not alone. Stellantis has a roughly 20% stake in Chinese automaker Leapmotor.
There's another opportunity to rebadge an existing vehicle as a Fiat or something that's more familiar to Americans, and there's already an infrastructure in place.
Everybody in the industry outside of China is rightly scared of trying to compete with these companies.
Of course, Geely and every other Chinese automaker has to deal with sharp opposition from many in the US government. Speaking at the New York Automotive Forum in April, US Senator Bernie Moreno called Chinese cars a cancer on the US auto industry. There already is a federal rule that bans any kind of technology from China related to connected cars. Currently, there is also a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, and that can be even higher if combined with other duties. About 38% of American consumers in a February survey taken by Cox Automotive said they would consider a Chinese car. Close to 70% of younger buyers would. And Donald Trump recently said at an address to the Detroit Economic Club that he'd be open to Chinese companies setting up shop in the US.
Now, if they want to come in and build the plant and hire you and hire your friends and your neighbors, that's great. I love that. Let China come in, let Japan come in. They are. And they'll be building plants, but they're using our labor.